Welcome, friends. Back for the YFI pod.
Woo.
Matt here, and today I'm with
Joshua.
Sabrina.
And Jeannie.
Yay.
Hi.
We're back.
And we're back. Any front desk?
I mean, I don't really have any check-ins. Do
No.
you? Anybody else have any front
No.
desks?
I mean, we just off camera just decided to do a
Pop culture
YFI
yeah.
YFI retreat day
Mm-hmm.
where we're gonna go goat guarding, play Dungeons and Dragons, and I don't
All of
know,
our interests.
probably get ice cream. I
Yeah,
don't know.
that sounds perfect.
Right?
Yeah.
I think so.
I mean, I like the ice cream idea. I like going bowling idea too, so I don't want to
Okay.
lose that.
Bowling is awesome.
Bowling is still in, yeah.
Yeah.
For
I
everyone.
want to go bowling.
Bowling's great.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's the administrative decisions we made today.
Mhm.
It's all the hard work we did.
All in a day's
We
work.
should play more
That's
games
right.
together.
I agree. Games are fun.
It's important.
No, it is.
It's team building.
It is.
Well, we do have a front desk.
Okay.
We're all doing Final Four situation, March Madness.
Oh, yeah, we
That's
are.
true.
Yeah.
That's right.
We are at the Sweet 16,
We're at
That's
Sweet
right.
16,
which is on Thursday.
and
Mhm.
right now you're winning.
I am.
Mm.
By 1 point.
Oof.
And are you and Francine tied?
I think so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
I think the three of us are tied. I think
Yeah.
Josh,
us three
Francine,
are-
and I are all
yep.
tied.
I
Yep.
think
Okay.
I'm in the lead with 44.
Mm-hmm.
Jeannie, Josh, and Francine are in second place with 43.
Mm.
And then Christine has 42.
Okay.
There we
I
go.
didn't hear my name.
No, yeah.
You know,
Well, you did pretty well the first
What?
round. First
that's how
two
the
rounds.
tournament goes,
Yeah, yeah.
man.
But you know what happened the first game?
First
well,
round.
I was out.
Yes.
Out.
Well,
I was
Yeah.
out.
you still can get points.
I can still
Mhm.
get points.
You just can't win it all.
No, not even
Right.
close.
Okay.
Because you picked Kentucky to win it all.
I did pick 10.
That's rough.
And they were
Kentucky,
out in the first round. That's
Kentucky really threw a lot of us off.
tough. Yeah.
They threw the whole
Yeah, I
country
can't
out.
believe it.
Yeah.
That and
Everybody
whoever
got that wrong.
James Madison beat.
They
They
beat Wisconsin.
yeah.
Yep.
It was like
That
a
was a big one,
12-3 seed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
James Madison.
Ridiculous.
Ugh.
James Madison.
I just think of Adam
The
Sandler.
person, not the school.
Like,
It's
what is
fine.
happening?
You think of Billy Madison?
Yeah, I do.
Jesus.
I love Billy Madison. It's awesome.
Everyone's like, yeah, how about that sports game? I don't know.
Maybe we should all go golfing.
Ooh.
Ooh, that would be fun. You know what?
Matt's wearing his golfing shirt
I've
today.
taken
Yeah.
I've taken
Make
people
par.
golfing before, and I think the range is better.
Yes.
Mhm.
Oh,
The range
yeah.
is fun because you just hit it as many times as you want. You don't have to chase
Yeah.
the ball. You don't have to lose anything and feel like
Right.
you're messing
It's like
up.
after you miss the ball so many times on that swing, and there's three people left behind you, and
Right.
someone's waiting
Right.
behind
No
you.
one's waiting in the
There's no
range.
pressure,
No
exactly.
Yeah,
pressure.
no
Right.
pressure.
Just
No
going.
one's getting mad.
No.
I took Francine
But I
golfing
do have
once.
a set.
Yeah, she
Oh.
fell asleep right away. Yeah,
What?
we went early. So I used to play at, I think I told you about it, Cedar View.
Okay.
It's like this golf course that is just literally a farm that a woman turned into a golf course. Like, she loves golf. I met her a million times. And they stopped opening the course last year. But the year before, nobody would ever be there. There was not even a person working like the clubhouse.
Oh, really?
And so I would go and get to play the whole course,
Right.
shoot 1,000 balls in a row off the tee, whatever. And so I took her, but that only happens if you go early enough.
Mm-hmm.
And so I took her really early, and she took one shot, and that was enough. And she fell asleep in the cart. And then I just played the whole round, while
I
she
don't know
slept.
if I could fall asleep in a golf cart.
I
Was she
was
pregnant?
I was shocked. She probably was.
Okay.
She probably was. That would make more sense because I was shocked.
Yeah.
Because it's not so comfortable.
It's not
No.
comfortable.
It's not comfortable at all.
It's
and
not an
so-
easy ride.
No, it's
There's
so
no shocks.
jambly. Yeah,
like,
it's crazy.
Okay. Yeah. She was
I
pregnant.
don't know. I think when you need a nap, you need a.
She's a
nap.
night person,
Yeah.
She's a night owl who's definitely out of her.
I
She did it for me.
relate to that.
Yeah.
So I appreciate
Yeah.
That's cute. That's fun.
Aw.
So
What are we here to talk about today?
So what are we here to talk about?
Hi,
Now, I don't have a lot to offer on this, so I'm going to just be mostly sitting and asking questions because the topic is what made you guys decide to do your YTT?
You're first.
Your first
First
yoga
YTT.
teacher training.
So think of the
Yeah.
first one. Am I correct in assuming that everyone's first YTT was a kind of, it's going to be 200 hour,
Mm-hmm.
like a vinyasa flow type?
Yep.
yes,
Is
Yeah.
that right?
Yep.
Can someone who knows more explain what that exactly means? I can't imagine our listeners don't know, but I really don't know.
Josh and I are both like,
What
Judy?
what vinyasa flow
Like what?
means?
Like yeah.
the
What?
difference between our 200 hours now that we're running live and
Yeah.
the ones we took.
So taking a vinyasa course is like a series of particular poses that move fluidly from one pose to the next pose to the next pose. So vinyasa, you can assume when you show up for that class or that training that your breath is going to move you from one posture to the next posture it's not like this is eagle pose, and then now we're going to go into tree pose. Like, it is a very relatively easeful flow to move your body from one particular posture to the next posture. They are lined up in a particular way. And there are other lineages of yoga that, that's not how the practice is set up. And you're not kind of assuming that the pose that comes directly before or after any other pose matches with them in body part, counter pose, part of the body, alignment. Like, you could just be like coming to the center of your mat and then coming into a squat. So it's not necessarily like a fluid movement that vinyasa has.
Is it go ahead.
Whereas Kundalini, it's like, okay, we're going to come up to stand now. However you choose to.
You have time to get there.
Yeah.
So like vinyasa, like if people think of just a yoga class, is that typically what it is? Like if
in the West, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
In America, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And probably most of Europe, I would say.
I'd say like 85 to 90% of the studios in America are vinyasa. Hatha,
Yep.
Yeah, that type of stuff.
Yep.
Right on. And honey, you did yours a while ago out when we were still living in the Hoosick Falls border of Vermont area.
Yes.
Sabrina and Josh, did you guys both do your 200s with Yoga Farm?
I did.
Yeah.
Oh,
I did mine in person.
2020.
And you did yours online, right?
Online.
Yep.
Oh, this is awesome because we have YFI in person.
Yes.
Which, geez, that's a throwback.
Early years.
Wow.
Sabrina, the YFI online version.
Yep.
I think the first or second cohort.
Second.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
That was online.
Nice.
Yeah, second.
All right.
Wild times.
Yes. Time's flown.
So how do we want to do this? Who wants to go first? And do you want to, I'm staring at you, honey, but.
Okay. I mean, I'll go first. I think a lot of people know this story.
Right.
I don't want to say I hated my life because it's very dramatic. But I was teaching, working in a high school. The environment was ridiculously toxic. I was working with a lot of like at-risk youth at that moment, and the district that we worked for, I mean, it was a little rough. There were definitely parts of it and students within it that were privileged and had access to privilege. But for the most part, like, we were 100% free lunch rate district.
Right. That's right. I forgot about that.
And most of the students were well below poverty level, rural Vermont. And all of that wasn't actually what was the most stressful. It was the adult humans that I was working with in the building.
As someone who worked in the same building, it is 100% the case.
Yeah.
I mean, oftentimes the kids, even the challenging ones who experience poverty, and education is not their priority. Like, they're not coming to school thinking, like, how can I use this to get into college? Like, a lot of these kids aren't, that's not even on their radar. So it's like, what can I do after, as soon as this is over, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that was the best part. Like, a lot of times, even the challenging kids were, I mean, more often more fun in some ways because there was no veil.
I mean,
there was no presumption.
I always preferred those kids.
They are who they are without apology, and
it was more of like the lack of seriousness that I had for my job and for, not that teaching isn't an incredibly noble position to be in and profession to take on, but like at some point we have to be like, do you remember what you learned in 9th grade social studies? Like,
how important is this?
Do I need this to be the thing that's keeping me up at night because, Billy didn't cite his sources?
It's so hard, yeah.
I mean, it's just like, come on, guys.
Yes.
Like, we've got to have some perspective here.
Right.
And
what's the goal?
And I'll never forget.
Pass.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. No, it's...
Yeah. Yeah. What's the priority?
Right.
Like, what do we actually care about? And for me, it was always relationships with the kids and the kids trusting and feeling safe in school and having that like rapport with them. And I'll never forget, this was a pretty defining breaking point for me. As like one of the younger teachers in the building, we had this thing called SOS. which was this ridiculous
What did it stand for?
Seeds of Success.
That's right.
Because schools love an acronym.
They
Like,
do.
they love it.
They do.
I think ours stood for school office suspension.
Oh.
You got to sit in a box.
It was
in
like
the
in
office.
school
Yeah, I
suspension,
was
but they're like,
what's
we're not going to
happening
call
here?
it that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You come up with a different name.
You get the
It'll be totally different.
It'll be very supportive.
So yeah,
Restorative. So this was like a 20-minute block of time where you were supposed to check in with students, and it was a lot of times a mixed cohort of different age groups, different grade levels. But then they had a separate one for seniors, and that one was supposed to be like, did you do, like, have you studied for your SATs, or like, have you done this? Are you applying to colleges? Like, it was supposed to be this small cohort of students that have a closer relationship with adults. And so we had this group of 12, and I was in there with this teacher who had been there forever. And we were playing, like, you had to play these like icebreaker games every time. And it was very prescriptive. And then you were supposed to kind of like make connections with them. So this was an icebreaker game. And you were supposed to ask the person to your left an either or question. And my co-leader was sitting next to me. And there's this teacher. And she looked at me and she goes, "Are you a help or a hindrance?" And I was like, I had an existential crisis in that. Like, I was like, I think I'm a help. Like, now I don't know. Right. I don't know even what I'm doing. Like, who am I supposed to be helping? You? No, I'm not helping you. So, you know, it was also at a time where I would get in my car at the end of the day and I would just cry. I would cry because the adults in the building were not only belittling to the students, but they were mean to me. And it sounds so silly to say it out loud, like, oh, they were so mean to me. But there were moments where, like, they were calling me Yoga Barbie. And I was like, all right, because you know what? I am a Scorpio at the end of the day.
Yoga Barbie.
So if you're going to accuse me of doing something being something, I might as well double down on that.
That's right. I'll be it.
So I took my first yoga teacher training so that I could stop crying at the end of the day, and maybe I could heal whatever was within me that had me so sensitive to other people's opinions of me, other people's experiences of me. And, you know, there was definitely a part of me that was like, I'm never going to teach yoga. Mm-hmm. And maybe I will offer this up to some of the youth that I work with or the students that I work with, but this is just for me.
Were you actively practicing at that time? Like all the time?
Yeah. Yep. There were a couple of yoga studios in the actual town where the school was. So it was easy to go there after school. Then
what was your practice?
It was a vinyasa class. Yeah, it was a vinyasa, hot vinyasa. I mean, it was all about the hot yoga. That was the era. Oh, yeah, I mean, it really blew up back then. I mean, it was, yes. And then there was a really amazing hot yoga studio about 45 minutes away, which was like my treat to myself, where I would go maybe once a week when the kids were with their dad. I would go and like make the trip, go to hot yoga, go get dinner, drive back home. Like I could make it a little bit of a routine. Because it was my saving grace. And I felt like in those hot yoga classes was the one place where I didn't have a constant inner dialogue about parent meetings and what administration was doing and if I was going to get pulled into the main office again because of what I was wearing and, you know, asked to do a 360 in front of an elderly male supervisor. Yeah. So it was the one place I didn't have to think about that stuff.
We're all like, Matt, what was she wearing? Like,
she wore, it was a skirt.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
yeah, it was just
like, you know, when you put your hands at your sides and it's like, well, you know.
How long?
Yeah,
a flowy skirt. It was a flowy
skirt.
Hippie skirt like, that maybe went to like my mid calf.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And yeah.
It sounds very rural.
It was.
Yeah,
it was.
Rough.
It was a wild ride.
It was wild.
Yeah. And ultimately, it was great because it brought me to that place of, oh, you know, life is so much more rich and so much more expansive than this tiny world that I exist in every single day of this building and these people. And, I just needed to break up that energy. So it had nothing to do with learning to teach or thinking I was going to be a yoga teacher. I had every apprehension around that. Like, I'm not super flexible. I can't do a handstand. I can't come into full lotus pose. Like all these things I couldn't do. But I was like, it's fine because I'm not going to teach anyway. I'm just going to do this for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny?
Now this was, obviously pre-COVID, pre-COVID. So like all in person, right? There's,
Oh yeah.
And it was like, was it when it was like a handful of
this
weekends.
was like 13 years ago now.
And it was like a Saturday, like a full Saturday, a full Sunday. Was like once a month or every other week or something like that?
It was like every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It was like a weekend on, 2 weeks off, a weekend on, 2 weeks off.
And it was like a full Saturday.
Full Sunday, and full Friday. It was Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I had to take those Fridays off.
No kidding.
Wow.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
Wow. All right.
Yep.
Nice.
It's a lot of in-personing.
That is.
Oh, so
Wow.
much.
How do you did you like all that impersonating?
I liked it as a student and someone who had, 3 children at home.
Mm-hmm.
I am always so impressed with people who can do online trainings when there's like the hustle and bustle of I'm looking at you, Josh. Kids everywhere, To me, it felt like a little mini vacation that I got to go on a couple times
Little
because
retreat every month. Like
I
every couple
know,
weeks,
I'm
self-focused.
I'm just gonna eat
Right.
lunch by
Yeah.
myself with no one talking to me right now. This is amazing,
That
and I
sounds
get
like
to hang out with grown-ups, and we're gonna talk about Hindu goddesses. Like I'm here for all of this. Like it felt so good to be able to immerse again in a culture and a community that was polar opposite from the toxicity I was experiencing Monday through Friday for my entire workday.
And I think that group you liked that group.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, my
'cause you
Yogini
had-
sisters.
Right,
They
'cause
were amazing.
You had was I living with you? Was it
No,
we? I
you
wasn't
were
living.
not.
No, we were dating, but we weren't living together. You had like a graduation party.
Yep.
After like the final ceremony at the house.
Yeah.
And like with all their families and children. I mean,
Yeah.
there must have been
Cool.
60 people there.
No, it was
crazy.
actually one of the defining moments of our relationship.
It was.
Because
I got to witness firsthand your mother.
I wasn't going to
That
say
is
that
defining.
reason.
That is defining.
I wasn't going to say that reason. Yes, Mom came up for the graduation, did some
did.
witchy shit, and then was reading everybody's tarot.
This was so awesome. Like in the living room,
I love that.
this was like a June Saturday, so it was beautiful out.
Yeah.
Doors open,
Perfect.
people going in and out. It was crazy. But in the living room, there was like this L-shaped couch. So she announced that she was going to read tarot for whoever was interested. So she just kind of sat in the corner of that L-shaped couch, had like a little table, had the cards, and pretty much a constant stream of people. Now, for hours, every time I walked through the room, there was a different person having their cards read by your mother. Every one of them was in tears.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was getting some harsh truths.
Sounds fun.
They were not ready.
Where are they now?
Oh my gosh!
So many truths.
There were so many, and I'm like, oh my god! This is the first time.
It's heavy.
This
And
is
everyone's like, this is the best party ever.
Yep.
Someone was like,
Really though,
the
right?
first time I'm
Yeah,
like,
I bet.
I may even said something like, I think your mom's making someone cry over there. And then 3 or 4 more times, I'm like, oh boy.
And then you see more and more people get in line.
This is the truth corner right here. Oh my
Oh
god.
my God.
That wasn't why, for me, it was a defining moment.
Oh.
It was, so we were not living together, and you came over to help with the party.
Oh yeah.
I was like, you don't have to come out. Like, this is just going to be so much emotion. This is
There's
just
a
going to
lot
be
coming
so
out
much
here.
going on here.
Yeah, but I mean, I got to be on the peripheral, like standing back.
Yeah.
I wasn't involved. I barely knew anyone, so I'm just like, I'll just be helpful and charming, and then
Yeah.
just like I don't have to actually get in like to
Yeah.
the emotion.
And I had been making food for days because
Yeah.
this was like people, it was my yogini sisters, but also like their families came.
Yeah.
So it was a big party. And my house was just full of people. We had this huge dining room table, and I just had like a spread. Like it was just so much food. And so Matt's like refreshing the food and like consistently washing dishes. Like I just remember you constantly washing dishes. And I think at one point, one of the women that was in my group which is hilarious because everybody at that point should have known that like I wasn't married. But they just kept referring to you as my husband. And you didn't flinch about it. I was like, you know, like I'm like,
that's really nice.
Because you just never. I'm like, geez, guys, like,
stop it.
We don't even
like,
live together.
Neither
like,
of you
come
are
on.
correcting anyone, and you're like,
We're just like, whatever, you know.
It's like trying it on, like you're trying a pair of shoes. Like, oh, how's this feel
It's
right
like,
now?
oh, go ask Jeannie's husband if there's any more napkins. You know, like.
Well, I mean, I wasn't scared of that, and mainly because like I'm clearly dipping into like the helping you in this house role, so like it wasn't surprising.
Yeah.
And then it was also like, yeah, I'm trying it on for size, see how it feels, you know. And it was like we had like if this was summer of 2013, I mean, this was like going to be 7-8 months of us dating essentially.
Yeah, sort of. I mean, we weren't. It wasn't really.
Which I was
that
not ready
long.
to propose in the moment, but I was also
so
on
cute.
in the like, well, this is probably the direction it's going.
going the right
Not
way.
too much longer,
Yeah.
but like, yeah.
Well, not to quote Jerry Maguire, but or Cuba Gooding Jr. You don't shoplift the pootie from a single mother. You got to
Man.
know what
That's
you're
a good-
getting
that's
into.
right. That's a
you
good
don't
quote.
do
That's
that.
the
Like
truth.
if
That's the
you're
truth. You
gonna,
don't.
if you're
If you're a good
in
person,
with
you
the
can't do that.
kids,
Right.
right? I mean, what did
Hell
we
yeah.
talk about last week with step
100%.
parenting?
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
you don't shoplift that stuff.
No,
Right.
yeah.
You got
I
to
mean,
know
I
that
agree.
you're buying some things.
Yes.
Yes.
No receipts. Can't
All
take
in.
that. Yeah.
All
Anyway,
So let's transition to like another in person.
Yeah.
Josh, you did your at YFI.
I did.
It was in person. Hit me with it. What was it like?
So it was an interesting situation. I was also in a time in my life. I was living in New York City and was engaged and was done with the city and needed to get out of. I've been there for 5 years and needed something else. And my fiance was from here, and so we found YFI had a listing for a marketing person online with a salary and everything like that. And I did sales, but my fiance wanted to interview. So we met with the leadership, and basically I was there too. And they were like, we want to hire both of you. And I was like, okay. Like, and so then that basically solidified our reasoning for coming up here. And we came up, and part of me working I was going to be marketing YFI to the businesses in the area was the idea. And because I had sales experience, whatever, and they were like, why don't you do the teacher training that's about to start to understand? Because at that point, I had done yoga one time, I believe. Like literally once. Literally one time. And I was like, all right, like, I was like, that doesn't really make sense to me, like to become a teacher of something I've never done, you know?
Right.
But it was more of like, I thought it
Learn
was
the product.
Yeah, let's learn what you're getting into, you know? And so when I got there, oh man, I could not have been prepared for what a yoga teacher training is. Like, because I was like, okay, it's like a class. It's like I'm going to go to a class, you know, like, and it's going to be like a lecture and there's going to be notes to take and whatever. And that was what I was most worried about, was like, will I even pay attention? I haven't been in class in 10 years, you know, like I haven't taken a course or anything like that. And I was like, it also was kind of work. So I was like, oh, I got to impress these people. Like,
Right, yeah.
Whatever.
Having like got the job already, you need to like prove that you can
that
do
I
it.
deserved it or
Right,
something. Yeah, I don't know. I had like some stuff there.
But that is hard to get into. Like if not been in a school setting, classroom setting in years.
Yeah.
That's intimidating.
It
really
was.
is.
It was. And then I showed up, and I was one of two men in the class.
I was going to ask you,
Yeah.
was there another guy in that class?
I was
I
one
couldn't
of two
remember.
men. He was a 65-plus-year-old man who knew everything there was to know
Everything.
about yoga. He corrected the teachers the whole time. It was actually
Constantly.
terrible. But what I wasn't ready for was I got to that class, and within like the first, 35 minutes, I had direct eye-to-eye conversations with these women. Like these women who were going through real shit. And I was like this, this dude who just moved in here. I was like, okay, like this is cool, you know, like, but I am eye to eye, like soulfully connecting with
10-minute life story.
yes, these women that are like
that always gets
just telling me
10-minute
the
life
most
story.
difficult, like these things that I'm like, wow, women? Like it was like a trauma, like unleashing on like and I was just like holding space and being like, so yoga teacher training. I came home. I remember the first time being like, that was like one of the most emotional, like spiritual connections that I've had with strangers, like in my whole life. And I was like so excited about it after that, but also like totally in awe of the people that were there, you know, like because I had no intention of teaching yoga. And I was like, this is not like a course. This is like a self-healing journey, you know? And it was, and just like you, I felt like the same way where I also was not very happy in my life. Like I was not getting along with my fiance. There was a lot of trouble that was happening in my life. And this was my retreat. And it totally saved me. Like I can't exaggerate. Doing my 200 hours saved like my life in a way and gave me perspective that I needed when I needed it in the exact perfect like directionality where like it gently guided me to this life essentially that I have now and my wife and like the things that were supposed to happen for me. And if I didn't have the 200-hour training to kind of like pull me back to myself, I would have probably never, I didn't have the awareness to get out of the situation I was in. So it was like, it was such an awakening in just the learning from the other students that were with me, you know, like these women with children and sick children and sick brothers or sisters or partners or whatever the case was. It made me realize that like, it gave me a much needed perspective on the difficulty in my life. And
also of like what other people are going through
and what people are capable of surviving.
And you're all there in the same room.
Yes. And we're
all
doing
the same thing. You all have different stories.
Exactly.
I find it super empowering.
And sharing and connecting with people who are 40 years your senior, you know, like, and I'm from Chicago. So it's like, I have almost nothing in common with these people. Like I don't know anything about where they're from or their towns they're from or like any of their ideologies or anything they believe, but everyone was so diverse but also connected on that I need to heal, like, which was like just a super surprise for me. And you know, I relished in it for sure.
Wow. Like I mean, tip of the cap to you, sir, for stepping into that with grace. I mean, geez, like, I mean, how old were you when you did this?
I think I was like 26.
Oh my God. If I'm thinking of myself at 26 to 28, could I have mustered up the grace and compassion and like the risk taking, like really to do that? Holy cow. Because if I've got a job and they're like, we really would like you to do this to continue to work here and be successful, I'm like, okay, I guess. But oh my God, I would have resisted that hard. I mean, that's why I was very
definitely
impressed.
afraid. I was afraid as hell. After the first night, I was like, oh God. I was like, this is like the heaviest. This is a heavy situation. But then it became, you know, what yoga offers people is that holding space opportunity. As a yoga teacher, you get to be that nourishment that you were talking about. Be that respite in a world of incredibly dark news and chaos and all that kind of stuff. It's like, yoga can be a break and a nourishing, like, step back. And a teacher training is that times a million. You know, like it really is.
Well, and it's one of those things that you can't quite verbalize in a way that people hear until they're ready to hear it. You know, there's no amount of marketing. There's no amount of talking about how transformational a 200-hour yoga teacher training is. People are like, yeah, what do you like? You just get together and you do some stretching for the weekend.
Yeah, right.
You know, like it's just this, like, you know, I would come back to work after a weekend of an intensive and I would kind of be like a zombie a little bit. Like, what am I processing that just happened? And there was this, you know, lack of reverence or awareness of how much work goes into it because of the peeling back of the layers of yourself, because of the holding space for other people's healing, because of learning new things outside your comfort zone, like all of these things going on at once. And, you know, we can talk about it. We can be like, oh, this is going to be such a transformational. I mean, how many testimonials have we gotten through the years from students being like, this was just so transformational. But until you're in it, it's like, really?
100%.
Really?
Yes. When I explained it to my family, they were like,
oh,
like,
mine
Josh,
too.
you can't touch your toes.
Yeah.
They were like, you literally can't sit cross-legged on the floor. You can't sit Indian style on the floor.
Yeah.
Crisscross applesauce, because my hips are too tight.
Yeah.
And so I was like, that was my first thing that I said when they asked me to do it. I was like, I can't do yoga.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
But it
I
totally.
feel like that's a lot of people's
Yeah.
responses.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
it's like, yeah, it's not just about that though.
But that's what was so perfect.
Just
about
hold
it.
on.
Yeah.
Buckle up.
Exactly.
It's more of
Did you think you were just here to learn yoga poses?
right.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Let's
Surprise,
dissect your whole
surprise.
inner world and your whole inner being.
Right.
and
What motivates
how
you
this
internally?
connects to this
like,
person.
intrinsically.
What's your core wound?
What's your core wound? Yeah. Right.
Yeah. What's your oldest childhood memory?
Go with a notebook. I'm like, Well, and that's I think that is one of the magical parts about working at a company that provides it, because it's like those are the surprises and those are the lessons you literally can't put a number on to quantify how much that's worth for people. And it's so individualized that it's like, if you don't do the training, you don't get to dive into yourself in a way to where it would be valuable to you. You can just immediately say like, that's too much for me, or that. So I'm kind of happy I didn't know, because I probably would have been more resistant to it.
And holding space for that has been like one of the most honoring things, to be able to hold space for someone to find themselves or figure themselves out, or
Remember themselves.
themselves. Thank you.
Remember.
Yeah.
I think I remember coming home that weekend and saying to you, "Oh, baby Josh."
He's gonna learn.
Like, because I think that
Josh is in it.
if I'm remembering your cohort, I think that like the next person that was probably closest to your age was still 15 years older than you.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Easily.
Definitely.
So, you're this 20-something guy with all of us olds. And I'm just like, Josh is he's just showing up, man.
I was
He's
trying.
showing up.
Yeah. It was totally, and it was where I got to meet Jeannie, and where it was like, Jeannie was it was such a blessing. It was like, I felt like I was connected with Jeannie in a way that she talked about it in a way that was so no bullshit. Like where it's like very Jeannie-esque to be like, listen, this is what it is. It doesn't have to be so crazy for you, and it was so, you met everybody where they were, and that was very surprising. I felt like it was, because if you join a yoga teacher training, I thought everyone was experts. Like everyone who came in was practiced for years and years and years, and I was going to come in and be like, so, what is this?
I think that's a big hurdle or barrier,
yes,
right? The perception that you need to have a certain level of experience with it before you can do the training.
It's a big misconception.
Yeah.
Totally.
Big misconception.
And I think there's almost more value of coming in it with such a green mentality.
Totally.
Like being completely like open, because I had no preconceived notions about it. I was just like, all right, like I love meditation. I think I could do some more of that.
Well, and it's true, because like it's hard to fill a cup that's already full, right?
Yes.
So when people come to a training and like a member of your cohort,
Yes.
where it was like, I know everything,
Yeah.
and I will actually, bump up against you in what you're saying, because it's not what I know, and where is the room for access to grace and growth if it's just like you're listening to a lecture for the pieces that you don't agree with, or you're listening to a lecture
for like
or
trying to get you in a gotcha, like
little
I
gotcha.
you
that
misspoke,
right there
that's wrong.
at that point. Yeah.
It's like Master Yoda says, you have to unlearn. You must unlearn what
right.
you've learned,
Active-
which I
active
never understood
listening.
until I was in my 20s, and I was like, even later, and I'm like, why would you unlearn it? You just learned it. Why would you unlearn something you learned? That's silly. Oh, I get it now.
That's always the question.
right.
What have you learned? What have you unlearned?
What have you unlearned?
What have
Maybe
you
more
unlearned?
important.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
So Sabrina,
That's me.
it is you.
That's right.
You are the
Yes.
only one at the table that did this in our online version.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why? Why'd you do it?
Why did I do
Why
it?
did you do it?
If I could just for a moment, my mom always said, hi, Linda. My mom, plug for my mom.
Hi, Linda.
Hey, Linda.
My mom always said, Sabrina, you won't know yourself until you're 30. You won't know yourself till you're 30. And that's one of those things like you hear 10 times, you hear 11 times. but like, Mom, could you have given me a little bit more with that at the time? However, I'm 34 now, and I completely understand what she was talking about of like, I won't know myself till I'm 30. And that was, so 4 years ago, 2020, that would have been 30 years old. I started my training. And for me, it was
your Saturn return.
Yeah, my Saturn return. How about that? I remember that astrology reading I had. That was a gift to myself after my training, was my astrology reading. And so for me, I worked in a factory. So for 12 years, just left there in January. 12 years, swing shift, days and nights. And my story might sound similar to yours in a sense of like, I was leaving and I was in my car and I was just like losing my stuff. I was losing my stuff. It's a long time to be with people, and it's like the same team each day, the same 5 people for 13 hours, and like all of the things happening. And it's not just like, you know, hanging out like this in a sense. It's like we're responsible for heavy machinery. We're like, there's always something. Now you're done with that, you go to the next thing, you go to the next thing, you go to the next thing. And like, you could just hear that if I repeat that 1,000 times, like that's what it felt like. And for my nervous system, it was just getting like,
because it's loud.
Yeah, it's loud. There's
it's a factory.
There's fluorescent lights.
There's no windows.
There are no windows. It's loud. So for me, it was like energetically, I've always been a very energetic person. And it's like, this isn't working for me. And at the same time, like I needed it to work for me. And I was very thankful when I landed that role that I had and had gotten that job, that career, because it afforded me the ability to be a single mom. It was what I needed at the time. And I was someone who, out of high school, I had gotten married. 6 months later, I was pregnant with my first child. We had 2 children together. So I had, small children. My youngest son was 5 months old when I started that job. And so it has just been a long life.
Yeah.
It was a long life of that workplace and that career. And so it was soon after I started that I started taking classes. So this is 12 years ago now. I started taking classes at a local studio, and I found some sense of self in that for that 1 hour and maybe like 20 minutes after. And I would just go to class after class, and, we fall into our habits, we fall into our patterns. And, I had my own with my then husband at the time. And it's like, I need something to be different. So this is like the history leading up to this point. And it was right around 27, because that was a special birthday to me, because my birthday is October 27th. So of course you're like, that's that one.
Golden birthday.
That's my one birthday. We're gonna do some stuff. So it was around that time where I was like, really started to make some substantial changes in what direction do I want to go, right? So at that point I was taking classes every day, and for me, I live in a very rural area. So for me, taking a class where I enjoyed taking class was like an hour. So I would leave work 7 o'clock at night, and I could make it to Michelle's sound bath class by 8 o'clock, rolling in there right on time. And for me, this is what I needed at that time to find myself, to support myself, so that when I was home with my children, I could be present, because I wasn't being present. I had so much in my nervous system and so much going on internally, and I was healing traumas of, my past marriage and, all of the things that went along with that, which is a lot. And I was trying to process that all on my own. And so yoga was a way for me to seek some sort of peace. And like I said, I was going every day, and things started to shift in my life. And I started to feel things within that class because it was a 26-2 class, a Bikram class. And then it was kind of like I felt like something was missing, right? I was really getting into the breath. I was leaning into meditation during these 26-2 poses. And I was like, but what else is there? So I started
Right.
going to church. I started to find all of these other avenues that I was looking for something more to know myself. Here's my mom kicking it again. You won't know yourself till you're 30. So, right. And what I tell my children now is like, you don't have to wait until you're 30 to know yourself. Right.
Right. The
or
self,
to
the
at
self
least
now
be curious about it.
To at least be
will
curious.
be different at 30.
So true.
But that doesn't mean you can't start, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So that leads us up to 2020 and
Pandemic, man.
and everything in the factory still kept going, right? We're
you
making
were
loves,
essential
we're making
right?
loves, we're making Pampers, we're making Charmin, we're making Bounty.
Okay.
Everything's still happening.
You were at the heart of the toilet paper crisis.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
exactly. Everything was still happening. At that point, I was in a leadership position, and I had tried a couple times to take a teacher training, but I work every other weekend. So like you had said, it wasn't conducive for me. And to take off a Sunday, we got paid double time. It was just not
Can't do it.
like,
Yeah.
am I going
No
to
option.
support my family or
Right.
do I want to like try out this yoga thing? That's
Right.
kind of like, what I enjoy. It was something that I really enjoyed. And so that had happened, and I had been following Yoga Farm for a little while, and I saw that online teacher training, and I said, oh, well, this is fun. Like, this can't hurt. And I was like,
Flexible schedule.
this is,
Yeah.
like I could do this. And it was totally conducive. And so you remember like, well, you didn't sign up online, but I remember
setting all
anyone
of it
that's
up.
listening, do you remember that moment when like you hit that button purchase and it came up like with your confirmation number and it's just like,
Let's do it.
oh, I did it.
Yeah.
I did it.
Yeah.
And so I was that person, like at work, instead of listening to music or listening to the banter, I would put in my earbud and I would be listening to this one over here.
You just described my day too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just trying to do my work, and all I'm hearing
In stereo.
in stereo.
Yeah.
Jesus.
And I think what I said to you earlier, Matt, I kind of described is like, someone asked one point, like, why did I take a yoga teacher training? And it was because at that time I said I wanted to be a better person. And I didn't feel like I was a bad person. I felt like I was a good person, but I wanted to be a better person. I knew I could be a better person. I knew I could serve differently. I knew that, and I get emotional thinking about it, like I knew I could show up for my children differently. I had already had been practicing and healing from like I said, past relationships and this. And I was at a point where like, no, like you deserve this. Like when I show up, I need to be all there. I want to be all there. So I felt at that time like this was going to help me recognize myself and be all there.
Well, and I think that one of the things that happens at some point, it might be someone's Saturn return. It might be just a different threshold or portal in your day-to-day life. Like
She's speaking my language.
we come to the realization that human beings are meant to expand. Like that's what we're here to do. So we can either expand into grace and curiosity and openness and joy, or we're going to expand into fear and suspicion and reactivity. And like one of the things that yoga teacher training does is it gives us the tools to choose to expand in that growth, grace, joy, connection, appreciation. And we don't find ourselves playing out like the default or the fear stories of, I'm going to be suspicious of this person, or I don't like this person, or, just like the negative self-talk and old tapes that play in our minds. So I think like at some point you hit that threshold in your life where it's like, am I actually expanding in the direction that I want to expand in.
Yeah.
And
that was when I turned 30. It was I specifically asked myself, what did you do in the last 10 years?
Wow.
That oomphed you forward, or that really did something for you. What did you do in the last 10 years? Yes, I had children. Yes, I had a career. But honestly, other than that, I didn't immerse myself in any education. I wasn't seeking knowledge. I wasn't seeking really anything within myself. And so it was really, that was like a turning point for me, that year 30, Saturn return, where I'm like, okay, when you get to 40, what do you want to say that you did in the last 10 years?
Wow.
What would you like your reflection to be? And that's when I really took my step forward. And that's why like teacher training means so much to me.
Man, hats off for asking that question at 30. I know I was not asking
I'm
that
also
kind
a
of question
Scorpio.
at 30. No, that's,
we like those deep questions.
We like those deep questions. And
I mean, I've seen this. Now, this is a slightly off topic, but not really. I listened to another podcast called Chasing Scratch. These two golf guys, their goal is to become scratch golfers. And like they're in their 7th season, and the first season or two, they're like skills focused, drills, whatever. And it's like as I like listen to the episodes, it's like they're slowly realizing that like there is internal like self-improvement type work that they're doing to supplement the skills thing. And it's just like whatever, if you want to get better at anything as you get older, it's like it will require some amount of growth and grace, as you said, honey, or like change, like, you know, conscious change. I hate to use the word
intentional, like
I hate to use the word self-improvement because like implies that like you need to be improved. You know what I mean? I'm not sure what exactly I think growth and grace is a perfect phrase.
That's good, yeah.
Whatever you want to get better at.
Yeah.
That will have to be a piece of your learning or unlearning.
Yeah.
You can't just do like, it's not just like, I'm going to learn the skill and that'll be it. Like
Right.
there's always some other deeper layer. And it's interesting, like by season 3, 4, 5, they're like doing some of that learning. I've even talked to you about it, honey. I'm like, oh, you wouldn't believe that these guys said. They're like doing like meditations and like reading books about that. And like everything that you want to learn, get better at, it's going to require some type of conscious growth and grace.
I remember the first time that I came home from work and I didn't just hop out of my car and then go inside and like
do the next thing.
Do the next thing, whether that be this, or like even to the extent of like, my day's everybody's problem. Why is your homework not done? You know what I mean? Like, I never knew that like yoga teacher training was going to afford me like awareness. I wasn't even really aware that like awareness
Well, it was one of the first, like one of the most common questions we would get asked. Like students would write in after any class that wasn't asana based, that where we weren't like breaking down poses, talking about poses, getting people into poses. They're like, why are we learning about ourselves?
I remember that.
Right.
At the beginning online. People were like, I didn't sign up for
I
this.
did not sign
Right.
up for thinking about why I am the way that I am.
Yeah, right.
Well, and that's the really interesting challenge. That
and I was like, I love this.
yeah, that was the interesting challenge for us at the beginning, was I think turning that, because once you go from a room, I had 15 to 20 people in my class.
Yeah.
And so the attention to, I think when you're in a room with other people and people are telling you their story, I think if you're at a yoga teacher training already, you automatically fall into that holding space thing. Like it's a great lesson of humanity to be like, you're here, you're not perfect, but either is any of these other people are these other people that you're with. And I think online at first, that was a tough thing for us to translate over, you know, and I think that we've gotten a lot better. We continue to improve at that. And, you know, this magical online opportunity allows this experience, this ability, this opportunity to gain awareness. You know, like I feel like you just said, that what is the cheat code to allowing yourself to even think about yourself critically in a way that isn't self-harming or guilty
You're
or
not
whatever.
judging yourself.
And that taught me in a way, it helped me unlearn the way that I had framed myself in the past and gave me the opportunity to take it one day at a time. You know, like in a way that totally was impossible for me to imagine was afforded to me until I was with all these people who showed me their own grace and humility, you know? And so I think that it's a beautiful thing that we get to offer it, you know, that we've all experienced that together, you know.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Why haven't you done a yoga teacher training?
Yes.
Matthew, Connor, O'Neill.
Who has the time?
You know,
Oh my God.
yeah.
Don't you rewatch all the things?
You know,
I know. Well, I mean, I
He's
always
watched
feel
these
like
classes so many times.
I do have watched a lot of them, so I feel like I should get one of those degrees that like Bon Jovi
Like a-
gets when he goes
yeah.
to speak at a college. It's like an
Yeah.
honorary.
that's how I feel about me too. Like I feel like I've watched enough video to get like a 3,000 hour. You know?
Yeah.
Why?
I'm on like my 4th round.
Yeah, exactly.
I have no good answer. Really, it's only up until recently where I've definitely wanted to do some type of training in like the yoga world. Meditation, it seems really cool to me too. Any form of like meditation training. I like just sitting there. I'm very earth. I like to be planted.
Heck yeah. Amen.
Yeah.
No, but that would be I would do that. And you know, it seems scary.
Trust
Yeah.
us.
You mean we didn't sell it? With
We
all
have a
of
great
these
school in mind. We have a great school in mind. We have just the place for you.
We've just got place for you.
I know there's this one
Email
teacher
me at
who is
support.
a big fan of you.
Support at yogafarm.us.
Yes.
I will send you all of the info.
sample classes that I think
send
you're
you
in,
a sample
actually.
You
class.
might even be a model. Yes.
That's true. I'm like,
I will
this
send you Sahibi Kriya.
who's this jabroni? Oh, that's me.
There he
You
is.
might recognize him.
Sahibi Kriya.
Sabrina Kriya.
What's today? Wednesday?
Yeah.
I'm at 4 days in a row.
4 days.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, let's
I'm-
go.
Wow,
dude.
yeah,
I gotta
yeah.
I'm like one of
Cool.
the just
So it's on the
kickstart this.
horizon for you.
I would not be shocked. Well, it's funny because I joke about it and say like, do I just need to do this so like you can make me teach something in the studio
Yeah.
whenever
Yeah.
you need
That's right.
to?
Full Metal Yoga.
That's right.
Yeah,
That would be so
that would
cool.
be the one. Yeah, but the similar attitude or thoughts that I think I've heard from all three of you were like, I don't really want to teach ever.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have no intention of teaching this, which is not a barrier because apparently
But, like,
It makes
is
it better. That
no,
makes it
I
so
will
much
ask
better,
you,
I
like,
think.
is that really true?
for me,
Yeah, like, do you?
yes, 1,000%. If I never teach a day in my life again, that's fine.
Which
That's
is
fair.
a damn shame because you are one of the best teachers
Yeah.
I have ever met in my
Yeah.
life.
We will call it like a not class. Come
Listen.
to not class with Matt.
What's this, like the Mad Hatter Tea Party? It's like the unbirthday.
Birthday.
Here's the not yoga class, not taught by not Matt.
I love it.
It's a yoga class not taught. Yeah. I mean, you're just so great at teaching whatever. I know, and it's easy to be like, you're biased, but it's actually not true. And I think anyone who has been married for a significant amount of time understands that, like, at some point you do cross that threshold where if you weren't really good at teaching, I probably would be your biggest critic
Yep.
as your
true.
spouse. So, you know, it's true in every aspect of the word teacher or guide. You are just very good at helping people understand things that they perceive that they're unable to understand. And we'll all get to
Yeah.
experience it when we play D&D together.
That's right.
Oh, that's right.
There we go.
All right. Yeah.
And-
I mean, I guess the clock's ticking. I can't. How much longer are you going to allow me to work here?
I think you owe it to all of us. I think you owe it to all of the
gonna-
students that you'll be teaching in the
It's
future
going to be
at this
forced
school.
professional development.
Yeah,
at some
right,
point.
Everyone
exactly.
listening in, let us know if you'd be interested in taking Matt's class.
That's right. That's- we'll do a poll.
If we get five people,
but no surveys.
No survey.
but no surveys.
Final thoughts. I mean, this has been. I'm not surprised, and I'm also like surprised, and like I love the answers that I heard today.
Yeah.
I also kind of thought I would hear what I heard, but also it all seems from a very genuine, sincere place, which makes like hearing it, like honestly thinking about doing this, because similar to Sabrina, sometimes you're just like, I just need something. I'm like kick
Yep.
to do something else, something that's different, shake
Yeah.
off the cobwebs. You know what I mean? Just get involved into something outside of something that you're already into, kind of thing. And that's like that's a draw, just to like, because I'm 44, so
Well,
now
you deserve
I'm like,
it.
Yeah.
You deserve
Yeah.
it. You know, like
And
it's like reminding yourself that you deserve it to give
Yeah.
yourself that space.
Oh,
Yeah.
shoot.
And for me, I think it was like I was just boop, boop, beep bopping through the day to day. I had a cycle. I would do the thing, do the thing, do the thing. And I was existing. And for me, like, I would probably say, like, was I really living? Not really sure, but I can say day to day, my day to day be bopping. I am for sure living, and it feels so good. So
yeah,
that's
and
my wish for everybody.
On that same thread, like I remember very clearly spending a lot of time traveling and being in the when-thens.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You know, so when this happens, whatever this is, when I buy a new car, when, you know, we find the perfect house, when I get to move back home, when I, you know, whatever the milestone is, then I will be able to experience presence and fulfillment. And if I wasn't doing that, which was probably the positive end of it, it was, oh, I wish that I could redo X, Y, and Z. And I'm time traveling in the past around things that I can't do anything about now.
Right.
And yoga has a way over time of just training your mind and your energy to keep coming back into the present moment and to stop. I mean, my grandmother would always say, like, don't wish your life away. You know, like, don't wish your life away.
Don't let anyone steal your joy, not even yourself. That's the end of every voicemail of,
Yeah, it's just like you gotta be here now. To quote Ram Dass, you got to be here now. And it's easy to say that, and it's kind of trite to say that.
But sometimes we have to learn how to do that, and that's what this has taught me, is how to be here now.
Yeah,
someone to recognize recognize when I'm not, and that's okay too. And there's a toolbox for that. And
shoot. Well, I mean, I guess I can't put it off much longer.
Yay.
That's right.
Maybe,
I'll be looking for your name in the inbox.
I'm sure we could get you a discount.
That's amazing. Thank you, guys. That was, as someone who has not completed a yoga training, it was awesome to hear about all these experiences. Because while I've like heard pieces of them, I've actually heard all of your stories. Well, one of you. I know your story pretty well. But that was awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For YFI Pod, this is Matt.
This is Josh.
This is Sabrina.
This is Jeannie.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.